Hi there. I've been thinking. I have been thinking. And obviously, just having completed the cheap bike build off, what I tried to build was a bicycle that's functionable every day but is still relatively light. It's pure, has the least amount of cables, is vintage, is steel, doesn't follow any modern principle, and it's basically recycled. Um, I like to stress one point is that obviously I'm a rider that likes comfort, so I like to sit upright. So that means that I have focused on making this handlebar height as much as high as I can do without stretching the envelope too much and using available parts. But I looked for height in every single component, and I will later take you out of the stand and take you over to the bike and tell you exactly what I mean. So, by doing that, I had an idea. I've been harboring this idea for quite a while. And I came up with the concept of what I like to call slammed. Slammed. I know that this word is being used here, there, and everywhere in the hot rod scene. The way you mount your stem on your racing bike. There's many different ways of using that. So let me just use this term for this new bike build, um, and I am happy to elaborate what I'm talking about, what I mean. So I came up with this little sketch here. There's something wrong with the sketch. There's too much wheelbase. So there should be about half a wheel of wheelbase only. So I'm going to slightly modify this by moving the rear wheel forward a little bit. Oh, and let me say this first. Slammed is basically, in my books, it means it's low, and I'm referring to some of the touch points. So I want the handlebars low, and I want everything low. I want you to sit on the bike low. I want the bike to be low, without compromising the ingredients. So I'm starting with a 700C wheel setup, that's front and back. But I'm going to use some hot rod terms or some hot rod principles. And obviously, what you will always find on the hot rods is you have your big tire in the back that comes from the performance of bringing the power to the road, and then a small tire and a narrow tire, a skinny tire in the front that's to save weight. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So hence, I'm going to come about the sketch. So I'm going to show a little bit more volume on the rear tire, and as you can see, I move this bottom bracket kind of like forward a touch. I'm using a natural angle for the rear tube, and that puts my seat somewhere here in this vicinity, or maybe there. So yeah, the tooth wheel slightly overlapping at times. It's relatively big, and then we're going to go up, and then, as I said, the wheelbase is too much, so I'm bringing this back a little bit. And so that means it would be my head tube, and this is then the frame. So, and if you use a stem that angles down, and then you use something like a mustache bar, that'll be your bar. And this should be about the center of the wheel, and that should be the wheel. I've already purchased one item for this, and that is a super cool tire. The thing about the tire is that it's two-tone, and the outside paint is white, so we're basically getting this kind of white. This is slightly awkward drawing on this cardboard, but never mind. Important is that, and that's, I would say, with any sketch, for any drawing is like, what does the eye pick up? What do you really see? What does the dark and the light stuff that the artist puts on there, what does it give your eye? So that should be the tire now, so we can basically forget about that and this. And other than that, I'm thinking that the sketch, so this would be the stem, and that would be the mustache bar, so the seat height somewhere here. So this about concludes the sort of like wishful thinking of what I'm trying to achieve. Slammed. Principles of hot rodding. So I'm trying to translate this into a bicycle, and that should be kind of like my key sketch. I'm gonna beautify that a little bit, cut it out, hang it up, and we're gonna work around this piece of art that is made from scrapings and polishings and paint residue and WD-40. Okay, so let me bring on some parts. Obviously, let's talk about the wheel. Let's talk about the wheel. Or let me take you out of the stand. Let me take you out of the stand. So that this is not so distorted. That's kind of what we're looking at, okay? This is just the proportional intention. Now let me walk around to the last build and start from where I'm talking about slammed. So if I apply a theoretical horizontal touch point, and I compare this 28 700C tire to my option here, which is also a 700C, but it's a tubular tire and it's 22 millimeter. So you see we're getting about a centimeter in height by the wheel alone. Another thing that I like to apply here is no brake for the front. And I have this absolutely gorgeous hub, high flange hub. I polished that in the past, and one of the rules and regulations for this build will be a minimum amount of surface finishing, so that we get more in a ratty end with the bike. But unfortunately that is already polished, nothing I can do. It's also serviced, so it runs nicely. Actually, no, it doesn't run nicely. So maybe it needs a little bit of grease, maybe it hasn't been serviced, I can't remember. But anyway, so that's the first principle. As little amount of front tire to bring the front down. The next issue will be obviously the fork. So now I'm going to walk you over to the pile of things that I have prepared. The next issue is the fork. And the stem. And here's what happens when you compare these two forks. Sorry, only okay. I will put you in the stand because this needs two hands to mount this down there. Or can I just park you for a moment? Apologize. Just need to spread the fork a millimeter. So here we go. And now we're looking into this gap from my last build and into that gap. And I have tried this. This is actually a 26-inch fork. Now check this out. I still have space, so that means I could theoretically have a normal tubular tire, clincher tire, sorry, I mean a clincher tire, and then I can go up with the tire. What I want is as close a gap as I can think of for this. Slammed, okay? Now, the next issue will be the stem. Happy to compare again. Once this stem is down here, so we're coming down dramatically. I'm always comparing it to my relatively comparing it. So this is relatively slammed, even though I want an overall maximum slammedness, if that's a word. Okay, so the next thing will be the mustache bars. Let me call them Poirot bars. Obviously, Poirot would have his mustache pointing up, so it's a reverse Poirot, a slammer bar. So that's how we're going to mount that. So that means relative to this old bike, you can see what happens to the handlebar. We're gaining about 15 centimeters, 25 centimeters possibly. We shall see. That will be the real cool comparison. So, but that's what I'm going to do. So I have bar. So that basically shows you where I'm going with this. Little tire, short fork, no front brake. I will have an issue here because this fork is a very long steer. So I will cut the thread down. I will sink this as far as it goes. I will find a very classic looking, not just looking, super vintage headset. I will apply no finish. So for some reason I've sanded this down a long time ago. It's a good quality steel, hasn't started to rust, so I'll just leave it just like that. Bars, same thing. I've ridden this bar when I first got into Italy. I loved this bar. I've ridden this bar on my shopping bike. I fixed up an old grandmother's Italian bike from the 50s and I had this bar on it. It was a 26-inch bike and I used a 700C wheel, so it was a little bit of a sit up and back gasser kind of style. Okay, so what else? Let's see. I have collected some bits and bobs that go along the finish that I'm trying to have on this bike. Let me make reference to my last build. This I polished and drilled and painted and detailed and polished and whatever. I spent so much time making this thing shiny, and here I want to cut out this kind of effort. First of all, I want a scruffy look and I want a quick build. Well, is it quick? That's another question, but I'm using, with reason, parts that are hot rod fit. So what does it mean, build a hot rod? In 1950 in America, you scavenge the junkyard and see what you can find. So that's the kind of finish I want. I will go as far as reusing bar tape that is definitely scruffy, and so on. So the frame will be another issue, and what's inside these bags. I went rummaging in my cellar for about a day yesterday and found what is beneficial. I want to go back to the sketch, put as much tire as the frame will allow me, but it has more to do with the frame than what I want, because availability we have. For example, look at this monster here. This would be about the perfect rear tire. It measures about 54 millimeters in width. That would be another option. It's about 10 millimeters less if the other one will not fit. Accidentally Continental and Schwalbe. We shall see. We shall see. So that basically gives a glimpse on the new build. I hope this is of interest, and please comment I'm thinking about making this a build off for a rat or hot rod designatable bicycle build. Please comment, subscribe, let me know, discuss with me how we shall go about this.